This is 104 KPPQ LP Ventura. Just heard Kill Devil Hill, Playing with Fire. And some Mad Season before that, one of my favorite albums of the 90s, a song called I Don't Know Anything. And the classic Montrose Bad Motor Scooter. As I promised, we now have on the phone with us Mark Zavon, the guitarist from Kill Devil Hill. How's it going, Mark?
Doing good. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you calling in tonight.
Hey, the pleasure's all mine. I appreciate you getting me on.
Hey, no problem. So, it was interesting. When I heard a couple new Kill Devil Hill songs earlier in the year, I was like, wow, that's a band I haven't heard of in a while. That kind of, we're kind of dormant for a while. How long had it been since you released an album? I think it was almost a decade, right?
Yep, just about 10 years, almost right on the dot. Yeah, we'd been down for quite some time. Basically, we had toured on Revolution Rise, and when that sort of died down a little bit, we were getting back in the studio and writing music and getting ready to record the next record. But as that was happening, Rex was deciding to do a solo record, and so things went in a different direction. And we waited because at the outset we were thinking, okay, he'll do a solo record, and then we'll get together and do Kill Devil Hill after that. During that time, I actually did a solo record of my own, put it out on MP, Dave Ellis's label. And so we, the assumption was we'd come back and we'd finish, what we had started writing and do another Kill Devil Hill record. Well, Rex changed his mind, decided he was going to go his own direction. And so we were looking for a bass player. And luckily, Dewey had known him for years, but I had also met Matt Snell, the original bass player from Five Finger Death Punch, who agreed to throw in with us, and now has been the best thing that's happened to this band in years, truthfully. I mean, he's a monster bass player, but also a really good head for business. So he's got a lot of connections and contacts and isn't afraid of crossing some T's and dotting some along the way. So that's a big help for us as well.
Yeah, that always helps. So the listeners are familiar. The Rex you were mentioning was Rex Brown, of course, the bass player of Pantera. Can you do just a quick little intro or a little history of the band, how you guys started, just so everybody's aware, and then we'll head right into what you're doing now, of course.
Sure. Okay, so this is back in about 2010. Vinny Appice had recorded some drum tracks that were intended for download purposes. So if you were writing some songs and you wanted Vinny to play on your songs, you could purchase this package and then have his drums on your tracks. Well, he, at the end of that process, decided, well, why don't I write some songs with these tracks? And was looking for a guitar player. We had a mutual friend that hooked us up, and it turned out we were pretty much, by LA standards, we were for sure, about a mile away from each other.
It's a half an hour drive, right?
Over there.
If you're lucky.
Right. So I started going over there and tracking some demos with him, and he had Jimmy Bain was involved at the time. So Jimmy had started, working on some of the stuff as well. And so it was the three of us at first, and then he asked me if I knew a singer, and I just almost put a band together with Dewey right before that. It was something that we got together and wrote a few songs, recorded some demos, and then the whole thing fell apart before it ever saw the light of day. A lot of that kind of stuff happens here in LA. Mm-hmm. But long story short, I still had Dewey's number, so I was like, yeah, I know a guy. And so we got Dewey to come over, and Vinny immediately loved his voice, and so we started, working demos from that angle. And during that process, Vinny and Jimmy had kind of a falling out, I guess. They got kind of a long history and complicated relationship. So Dewey and I, we just kind of hung in the background and let them sort their thing out. But long story short, Vinny let Jimmy go, and we were looking for a bass player. And so we auditioned a couple of guys, and nothing was really sticking. And he calls me up one day, and he says, I think I found the guy. And I was like, oh, cool, who is it? And he's like, Rex. I was a huge Pantera fan, so I was like, no way.
Yeah, no slouch there.
He came down. Yeah, I know, right? I was more shocked than anybody, I assure you. So anyway, he comes down, stays at my house. We hang out, staying up all night, watching John Wayne movies together. And next thing you know, we're writing a record, having a really good time. And basically we did those two records, did a bunch of touring, and went to all over the place, man. Europe, Australia. We did a big run up in Canada, and met a whole bunch of really cool people, and hoping that we can do the same with this record. So now that we've got the new lineup in place, I think this record honestly is probably the best sounding record that we've got so far. We've got Chris Collier, who's been working with Korn, did the production on it all the way start to finish. So he engineered the drums all the way through to the mixing and mastering. It makes a big difference when somebody's got a creative vision like he has and is able to keep his hand on the ball the entire time. So it's a really great sounding record. I'm really proud of it, and I know the guys are too.
Is Johnny still with you on drums?
Yeah, Johnny Kelly on drums, Dewey Bragg on vocals, of course Matt Snell on bass, and myself on guitar.
And Johnny, of course, was in Typo Negative previously, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Johnny's a busy guy. He has a lot of irons in the fire.
It seems like almost everybody does these days, right? They have a main project maybe, and one side, two side, three sides. Just you never know where people are going to pop up.
Yep, it's true. It's really true. It's a different kind of a climate than it used to be, the music business, definitely. It's a lot more of, DIY, and it's a lot more, trying to work as many angles as you can possibly get. Because, of course, with streaming services and things like that, it's become a lot harder to make money, So when there was a little bit more money coming in, it was easy to stick with one project because, you could make money with that project. You could come off the road, do a tour cycle, like record a record, go out and do a tour, come back and do another record, that sort of thing. But unfortunately, the record would pay for the tour, right? The record would pay for a lot of these things. And now the record doesn't pay for anything. It's basically just a billboard for your band. So, here's our advertising. But it's the most expensive advertising you can imagine.
Right.
It's not a cheap ordeal to record a record. And it has to be great because, of course, the standards are high nowadays. So, it's a challenge. But then if you've got more irons in the fire, obviously, you've got more opportunities to make money, more opportunities to make records, more opportunities to tour. So more opportunities are better. And I think that's what feeds that,
So tell me, what went into the decision to releasing singles throughout the year up into, I guess they'll all be on your new album that's coming out in September, right? Seas of Oblivion, correct?
Yes, Seas of Oblivion, September 20th, absolutely.
Yeah, what was the thinking about releasing the singles so far in advance, kind of leading up to it? I know a lot of bands are doing that these days. Do you think that gives the album a bigger push over a longer period of time, or are you kind of writing the songs throughout the year as well to finish up the album?
Oh, no, these songs have been in for a really long time. In fact, truthfully, we probably got another 15 songs sitting there in a stack that didn't make the record for whatever reason. Some of them I really thought were the strongest songs that didn't make this record, but for whatever reason, it's kind of once we get in the room, we start playing them. Some will stick and some don't, and so that's what's on this record. And there's some great material, some great tunes for sure. But yeah, we want to release stuff, kind of let it trickle out a little bit before we release the record because it's been so long since anybody's really heard us. We wanted to kind of reintroduce ourselves to a certain degree so that people could hear what we've been up to and, what we sound like nowadays with the current lineup. It's an idea I had a long time ago, but it seems appropriate in today's market because you've got a social media climate that's kind of a what have you done for me lately situation. You know what I mean? Like everybody's some content constantly coming in and heading out over their social media channels. And so having, some video, some lyric videos, some content, some music, some new music that can, we can put out and get people excited about before the record comes out. At least they know we're back on the map because I think if we threw a record out there after being off for 10 years, people might miss it, and so hopefully we've cast a wider net by putting out a few singles ahead of time and, trying to draw people back in, some of our old fans. And we've made a lot of new fans along the way, too. I'm getting a lot of comments on social media about, how people are excited about what we're doing and, people that were not necessarily following us before but are into the band now. So that's exciting, and I'm really looking forward to pursuing that further.
Yeah, the first song that made it to me was Before the Devil Knows, and I played it on the show, and I really liked it. And it definitely sounded quite a bit different than the old Kill Devil Hill that I knew. And then the second song that I heard, the one I just played, actually, Playing with Fire, I mean, that sounds like a totally different sound for you. I mean, definitely Alice in Chains, Mad Season, esque, very, I guess I'd say diverse sounds of these different songs. Like they don't all fit into the same bucket, it sounds like, from the few I've heard so far.
Yeah, you're definitely right on the money there. Like I said, we wrote a lot of material, and so it gets even more diverse than that on this record. So, I think when we first started, we were all just kind of pointed in one sort of narrow direction, which isn't a bad thing. I love what we did. But at the same time, you know, we had so much more time on our hands to write this stuff than we did to write the first record and the second record. When we were writing those records, we were under the gun, you know, to get it done, get it out, get moving, get on tour. It was more of a cycle back then. And since we had all that time in between the 10 years that we were talking about earlier, a lot of stuff came up, a lot of weird angles, a lot of, you know, different types of music that are, you know, closer to maybe our influences, you know, some of the stuff that we grew up on, you know, like Dewey and I are both huge Alice in Chains fans. So Playing with Fire, you know, was just kind of a no-brainer for us.
Yeah, when you write a song like that, do you have that goal in mind that said, hey, let's write one kind of in this style, or does it just kind of happen and then you kind of produce it that way? Or does that like, does it? Okay. So it's not like, all right, let's do an Alice in Chains type song.
No. But I mean, you can't, once you listen back to it, it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to try and hide from it. You know, it is what it is. I mean, I grew up on that stuff.
Sure.
I'm a big Alice in Chains fan. And so it's like, you know, why wouldn't, it's certainly, you know, to be compared to somebody that is an influence of yours that you grew up on, that you know, really look up to, that's a compliment, you know, by any measure. So, and there's a lot of stuff that's kind of like that. There's more up-tempo stuff on this record. You know, we had a lot of really kind of back behind the beat stuff, you know, on the first record for sure. And so, you know, there's some more up-tempo tracks. There's some slower tracks too. There's a Sabbath cover. We did a cover of Solitude that's on there. And
oh, that's funny.
There's a bunch of eclectic kind of stuff, you know, that's just, we had, and I think it really does stem from us just having more time on our hands and more opportunities to work together and demo stuff up and see what we came up with. So I was glad. I mean, I was a lot happier about it, I think, than Johnny was when we went in the studio to track drums, because I think he tracked like 18 songs in 2 days or 3 days or whatever it was.
Wow.
So he was just going nonstop, but he did an amazing job. And, you know, we've got actually, there's more material. We've probably got, there's probably a covers EP, you know, that we will either look at releasing later on, but a bunch of covers that we recorded that were pretty cool too. So he had his work cut out for him going into the studio to cut drums and rose to the occasion. I was proud of him. The guy's amazing.
I'm looking forward to hearing your cover of Solitude. Coincidentally, I opened up the show tonight. My second song was Soundgarden's cover of Into the Void. Did you ever hear that one?
Oh, I love that song.
Really good version.
That is probably the baddest riff ever recorded.
Isn't it? I love a good cover.
Riff.
Yep. I mean, God, there's so many good, amazing Iommi riffs, but that's definitely up there. So I want to talk more about the new album, but I want to let everyone know that you guys are going to be at the world-famous Whiskey A Go-Go on Thursday, September 21st, which is pretty exciting. That's your first show in a while, right, as Kill Devil Hill?
Yeah, we had done a few fly-out weekends here and there in between, you know, like with Matt. And so we played a bit with Matt, you know, out live. It won't be our first, you know, shows with him or anything like that, but it's the first shows in a long time. So yeah, we're playing Thursday, the 21st of September at the Whiskey A Go-Go in Hollywood. Then we're doing the 22nd, that Friday, at Vamped in Vegas, and then we're coming back to Santa Ana to do stages down in Santa Ana in Orange County on that Saturday. So yeah, we're really excited about it. There're going to be CD release parties too. So there's going to be some giveaways. We're going to have the new CDs going to be available there. I think there's going to be pre-orders for vinyl. We've got some T-shirts that are only available at our live shows, are not available online. So there's a bunch of cool stuff going to be happening, and we're really looking forward to it. You know, Dewey and I have been getting together, kind of working through these songs. It's funny when you write some of these songs over a long period of time and you demo them and kind of, you know, layer the tracks one at a time. Sometimes you get to a point where it's like, oh, you know, we've never actually played this song and sang it together. Maybe we should try that before we try.
Might be a good idea.
Yeah, there was Playing the Fire. In fact, is the one that was like, oh, okay. We sat at his over at his apartment and worked on that for a while. It was like, oh, okay, this is a little more difficult than we thought, but by the end of it, we had it sounding really good. And actually, it would make a great acoustic thing if we ever did perform that song acoustic, just the two of us, because it sounded pretty awesome. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. You know, it's fun working the kinks out, you know, like stuff that you've never played live. We'll be playing in the set. I think there's the 4 singles that we've released already. There's Blood in the Water, You Can't Kill Me, California, Before the Devil Knows, and Playing with Fire. and those are in the set. Plus, we've got another single coming out on the 13th of September called Pharmaceutical Sunshine. It's kind of a personal piece in a way, because I mean, we've dealt with some of this stuff in our own families. That it's about the opioid epidemic. It's about, you know, what's going on with fentanyl and synthetic opioids, and what's going on with overdose. The overdose numbers are off the chart. I mean, it's a total heartbreaker when you find out, you know, when you see it firsthand, what it does to, you know, people that you know, people that you love, and it just takes over their lives, and it ruins people's lives, you know, and it can take your life. So, you know, this song is about that. It's about shining a light on this problem, this undercurrent that's just, you know, taking way too many people out of the game. And, you know, a lot of it's because it's not seeing the news. It's not on the news. Yeah, I look at 130 people die a day of opioid overdoses, and it never even sees the news. I mean, if you had an airplane crash with 130 deaths, you'd see that on the news, but you don't hear anything about the opioid thing, you know, mostly because it's probably financed by these pharmaceutical companies. I digress. But the bottom line is this song is meant to kind of be a light, you know, at the end of the tunnel for people who are, you know, having these issues that we've had, you know, because we've felt it personally.
Yeah, personal experience.
So that's where that song came from.
So what's so you have these 3 dates around here. I assume you're all based in the LA area. It sounds like anyway. Is that why you're playing these 3 dates?
It'd be way easier if we were. Dewey and I are here in LA. But,
okay.
Yeah, Matt's up in Reno, and Johnny's in Dallas.
So, not too bad.
Yeah, we pull it together. It's short flights, and they're cool. You know, it's coming in, taking care of business, and, you know, it's easy to make it happen. Actually, the great thing is that Dewey's here in town, and we can work together because, you know, he and I think, have a lot of the we've always been at the core of the writing process, you know, for Kill Devil Hill. So a lot of the stuff, like, I don't know, I feel like, you know, I've had people say, well, what are you going to do now that you don't have Vinny and Rex in the band? And as much as I'm always going to be grateful for those guys' contributions and for them putting us on the map, you know, it was always me and Dewey, you know, that were kind of at the center of, you know, putting these songs together. In fact, Hangman and some of the other material that we had was written before we even met Vinny. So I mean, like, you know, there's a lot of stuff that having Dewey and I together in the same town really helps us, you know, to kind of keep the ball rolling, to keep songs being written and recorded, demos being, you know, recorded, and these little, you know, impromptu rehearsals like I was describing can happen. And so that really goes a long way to keeping the train on the track, so to speak. Sure. You
guys planning on doing some more touring after these 3 dates for the rest of the year? Or are you going to pick it up next year?
Well, it depends. We're trying to figure out schedules right now. I really do want to get out and play. But yeah, people have a lot of irons in the fire, so we're trying to figure out how we can fit this thing in. At the very least, we'll be out early next year. You know, I don't know if we can make something happen this year. I want to, but if we can, we will. We've got a great booking agent working with us, and, you know, hopefully we can get back out there and make something happen sooner than later. But I think, you know, January, February, something like that, I think probably we'll at least be able to get out by then and start bringing it out there, because it's been way too long. And honestly, I miss meeting the fans and being out and hanging out with people who, you know, are like-minded, who dig the stuff. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's so much fun to hang out afterwards at the merch booth and shake hands, to know people, you know, and it's just something that's been missing for a really long time for me, and I really miss it. So looking forward to getting back out there for sure.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to meet one of my listeners at the Whiskey Show. Mark's been kind enough to offer up a pair of tickets to one of my listeners, and also entrance to the sound check, which is really cool. So if you guys want to enter to win that contest, just email me at radio@capsmedia.org. That's radio@capsmedia.org. Pure Rock Show on the subject line, and just let me know that you want to go. Or check out the Pure Rock Show Instagram page at Pure Rock California and look for the Kill Devil Hill Whiskey post, and you can comment and enter there too. That's really cool. Do you guys do that often? Have guests in for sound check that can watch you guys?
Well, when we were on tour, we would do VIP packages sometimes, and that's kind of how that would work. Is you'd have a laminate for people, and they'd come and they'd, you know, hang out at sound check. We'd sign their stuff and take photos. You know, kind of just hang out with them for a little bit beforehand. And
do you take requests during sound check? Somebody ask you to play something?
Oh, sometimes, if we still remember them. Some of those deep cuts we haven't played in years and years. It's like I was listening because, I've been kind of running through a few of the songs here and there because it's been a while since I played them. And I was playing through some of the deeper cuts, and I'm like, oh, man, how did that go? Trying to figure out, the bridge and Old Man, or like different songs that we played but haven't played since, 2013 or 14 probably. Maybe 2015. I don't know.
Where does the time go, right? It's unbelievable.
I know, right? So, yeah, I'm just kind of blowing the dust off. But, yeah, hell, if they want us to play something, we'll try and play it. I'd try to play a cover, too. I mean, we've pulled off a few covers in our day. So, yeah, it's always fun to just kind of, throw it at the wall and see if it sticks, It's going to be a great show, though. I'm really looking forward to the Whiskey Day. Always treat us well there. I love the venue. It's not lost on me. Every time I get on that stage, I've played there a bunch of times. I think I've played there probably 6 or 7 bands. But every time I get on that stage, I think about Jimi Hendrix. I think about Eddie Van Halen. I think about Randy Rhoads. I think about the guys that have stood up there on that stage and played, and it's just there's so much history involved with it, it's just iconic, and to think about that, it's humbling, but it's also inspiring, and it makes me feel like, we're going to blow this thing up. Watch, this is where you blow it up, right here on this stage. It's been done before. We're going to do it tonight.
Yep.
So excited. I really am.
I think the same things, and we're so fortunate that it's still around because pretty much everything is gone now. It's really kind of sad. All these iconic places from, the 70s, 80s, 90s, there's not many of them left. So That is great to be able to play the whiskey, like you said.
It's crazy. Dude, they tore down the House of Blues to put up a hotel for people to come to the Sunset Strip.
I know.
I mean, what's going to be left of the Sunset Strip if you tear everything down to build a hotel?
Well, that doesn't
make any sense.
That's what's happening with Viper Room. They already sold that land. That's going to be some new big condo. I mean, I saw it. I'm originally from the East Coast, from New York, and I saw it all throughout the 2000s. All these places I used to go to in the 80s and 90s, they're all gone. You wouldn't even know they were there anymore. It is very sad. So glad the whiskey and the rainbow are still
tragic.
Here. It really is.
Yeah, right. As long as they're still here and the Roxy, at least there's still a Sunset Strip to see.
Exactly.
Hopefully it'll still be there for future generations, man. I mean, we can only hope.
Exactly. So the new Kill Devil Hill album is out, Seas of Oblivion, on September 20th. There's 4 singles out there you can find. Playing with Fire. I'm going to be playing Blood in the Water after the interview here. I've got 2 little silly but fun questions for you to end things with here, so I'm putting you on the spot. Your top 3 influential bands that really got you into music, I assume as a teenager. What were your top 3 favorite bands you went nuts over?
Well, my first record was Blizzard of Oz, so, Ozzy's solo band was big for me, trying to learn, putting the needle back on those records and trying to learn what was going on. Learning all that Randy Rhoads stuff wrong because I didn't know how to play guitar at all.
Good way to learn.
That was a big deal for me. Yeah, exactly. Van Halen was big for me too.
Nice.
Eddie redefined everything. There was basically a whole new style of playing guitar. It was during that time when I was a teenager that it was really taking hold, and so yeah, that had a big influence on me. And believe it or not, the band Rat was a huge influence on me. I loved that. I still love that
Same
band
here.
to this day. I thought Warren DeMartini was criminally underrated as a guitar player. The guy's so fantastic. I mean, he really did things, that were otherworldly, were on another level than anybody that was out at the time. And, I think that, he just didn't get, his due, if you want to just say it that way. But yeah, I always loved that band. I really dug their songs. I was fortunate enough to play in Stephen Pearcy's solo band for a few years.
Oh, is that right?
Stuff with him.
Awesome.
Yeah, back in 2000, the early 2000s or whatever. So yeah, he's a really cool cat, and we had a really good time doing that stuff. And I even got to do a couple of fly-out fill-in dates for John Corabi when he couldn't make a couple festivals in the Midwest. This was when Jizzy Pearl was singing there were 2 Rats.
Yep, I remember.
So Jizzy was
before Jizzy became Kevin Dubrow.
Jizzy,
yeah, he was in Rat.
Right. So I actually got to be the Robin Crosby, play the Robin Crosby role, and get up there and play the harmony solos with Warren. So
wow,
I mean, like that was
awesome.
a bucket list item for me, because he was such a huge influence on me and all that. And he was always super cool to me too. So nice, cool, down to earth cat, just like you hope for when you meet your idols. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They say don't meet your idols because you never know if you're meeting them on a good day or a bad day. But I've been really fortunate to meet mine on good days, I guess it was. So
that's really cool. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned Rat, because I always say, of all the 80s bands, the 80s commercial hard rock bands, find me one that had as many good albums as Rat did. I mean, they were so consistent. 5, 6 great albums, videos, great singles. If you really think about it, they had more better songs than the Motley Crues, the Poisons, and everything. And for some reason, maybe because of their dysfunction, because they were always breaking up, who knows, but anybody out there, if you don't have all those original Rat albums, get them. They're great. Starting with the EP.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, your last
Absolutely.
question. Your first rock band T-shirt.
Ooh. Wow. Hell, what was it? That is a good question. Dang, I have not been asked that question before, and it has been a lot of years. What would it have been? Oh, man, I can't even remember. Let's see. Honestly, I think it was a Dio shirt.
Cool. That's a good one.
I think it was a Dio shirt.
I was going to say, if it's something you'd be embarrassed of now, no big deal. We're all young once, But Dio is nothing to be embarrassed about.
I saw Holy Diver with Dawkins opening up.
Wow.
Holy Diver tour, and I'm pretty sure I bought a T-shirt at that show. That would have probably been my first rock T-shirt that I bought at a concert, I think.
That's a great one.
Man,
who would have thought when you're
I can't remember.
And as a young teenager, you thought you'd be playing with members of Dio as you got older? Probably never even crossed your mind, right?
Oh, dude, yeah.
Crazy.
When we were doing that stuff, I swear I'd pinch myself. It's so I don't know. It's humbling, but it's an honor. But they're also you wind up when you're on tour, especially you're just living together and you're bros and you're just cutting up and making jokes and having fun as you do, and so you just become your close friends, and it's a little surreal, but it's a blessing for sure, to have guys of that caliber, guys with that kind of talent and that kind of history, you know what I mean, working with you to make music. So yeah, I don't ever take that stuff for granted, and I'm always grateful for those guys and what they've done.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, well, obviously it's a testament to your talent because they're working with you, so it all works. All right, Mark, well, appreciate you calling in. Looking forward to the show September 21st at the Whiskey and the new album coming out in just a few weeks. It's almost September, and actually when people are hearing this, it's going to be September. So, really appreciate you calling in and looking forward to everything coming out.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate you having me on, man. It's been a blast talking to you.
Awesome. You too. Have a great night, Mark.